What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to NJ2AS' live stream. Dan, how you been?
There's a lot of stuff going on, man.
I know. Where do we even begin?
I miss being here.
Listen, I want to get right to the point because we have years of things to cover that have been happening in New Jersey. I just want to really emphasize the fact that everybody's been asking us, what have you guys been up to? What have you guys been up to? We've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes, predominantly a lot of undercover work. If everybody remembers, in 2015, everybody was complaining about our gun rights in the state of New Jersey, and nothing was being done. So we worked together, Daniel and I, on developing an undercover team, which we did. We put out about maybe 10 people throughout the field of New Jersey, going to police departments, going to government agencies, talking to people at the state police, and documenting everything. Long story short, for those of you who don't know, I don't want to rehash the past, but all that stuff was published on our YouTube channel. And we had a big press conference, and within 10 days of the press conference, the governor at the time, Governor Christie, signed an executive order predominantly citing our videos, talking about the injustices that were happening and how people cannot be waiting months and sometimes years for their Second Amendment right. With that happening, within days, people were getting their permits, within days, if not weeks. And that was the kind of results-oriented activism that I wanted to continue. There was a huge learning curve in that spectrum, especially dealing with the media, which we've also are going to be doing a lot of work in undercover that we've done undercover to expose the hypocrisy and the corruption that goes on in the so-called mainstream media because they weren't covering this stuff. And all the things that we've complained about for decades in our state that nothing was being done about except for lawsuits that we kept losing, we finally changed that narrative. So we want to take things to the next level as we have. For instance, these Bloomberg-funded groups, we were able to infiltrate. We sent people undercover into these meetings. And, I mean, it's quite disgusting when you see, I know you've seen some of the stuff, of just like what they talk about, what they do.
It's just because you're not used to politics, man.
Yeah, well, maybe that was,
You should jump in. The water is warm.
Yeah. But, like, for instance, and, like, this is why I want to really differentiate ourselves in regard to how we operate. I was able to actually get a copy of one of their training manuals. It's called Preventing Gun Violence Through Effective Messaging. And I think we got to come up with a good, like, kind of storytelling kind of platform for this. Maybe, you and me.
The best story is video, man. Visceral, real, avant-garde. Like, show people the reality and they'll deduce their own conclusion. Because when you talk at people, they presume there's an agenda, there's a purpose behind what you're saying. When you just show it to them, there's no bullshitting, right? Like, well, that's it.
What's interesting is that since we took our time with this and we spent years building this up, is that if you watch the videos of how they operate in these meetings and in their like platform, and then you actually reference the manual to show, on chapter, wherever, like let's say here it's page whatever, key messages and principles in messaging. It's critical that you ground your messaging around gun violence prevention by making that emotional connection. Don't skip past emotional arguments. So this is why they keep talking about like children and bringing up all these horrific situations that they exploit, in my opinion, to push forward their own agenda, which is disarming everybody. Forget about being able to protect yourself. They just want to disarm people. And we've gotten internal communications from the court systems in New Jersey, which have also, like, it demonstrates the bias and the misinformation that the judges are receiving in regard to how court cases are being handled for Second Amendment cases and how you're going to potentially challenge some police chiefs' denial of your records.
Don't do that. The Republicans will get mad at you.
Yeah, exactly.
We gotta touch on this real quick, just to keep it light, because we're getting too heavy.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry. There's so much going on.
Let's tap the brakes. First of all, we look a lot different than the last time we were here.
Yeah.
Like, life is a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's in a sort of different position. My outlook on things is a lot different. We were talking about how to be a part of this activism the last time we were in your old place, where we talked about how to video record, how to go up to people, the dynamic of going up to law enforcement and all of that. I just want to stipulate, we can see in aggregate all of your comments here in one unified stream. So the point of these streams is to be interactive. We want to talk about the work that Alex and the team have been up to for the last couple of years, talk about what's coming in the future, but also kind of digest, I don't want to say the political reality, because politics to people conjures up the idea of democracy and voting, and that's not what I'm talking about. I mean more culture. But we are seeing all the comments. So I'm going to put them up on the screen as we go. I'm just going to laugh here at Silvermine. He said, a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. He knows exactly how it works.
Yeah.
So you have to keep pushing stuff out there to keep things relevant. Appreciate it, man. Here's Bill. He's checking in. Good to see you, man. Yeah, throw your questions in there, comments. I will go in order. If I think it's something we can comment on or relevant to show, we will go back and forth about it. I've been kind of out of I'm involved in the activism game. Obviously, I'm still a plaintiff in federal court against the state of New Jersey with FPC. And obviously, NJ2AS is very much still involved in multiple lawsuits in New Jersey. I've kind of been out of the activism nonprofit side for a few years because I've been in the partisan politics side for a little bit, for those who follow me. But trying to jump back into it here with the big man and get things going again in that front. But he's been up to a lot. That's why I'm really excited for him to show you what's going on. Silverwing saying, "You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy." A quote for those of you that know where that's from. Throw it in. That's a bonus. Throw it in there. Steve here is asking any word on magazine ban. So yeah, you can comment. Otherwise, I'm not just going to be like a legal update because there's other people who do that. But you can do that.
So who's the person? Steve.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
Up on the
So
screen.
this actually brings up a great point, because what I think everybody's sick and tired of is like these lawsuits and this litigation, and even though Bruin was a great victory for everybody in the country, not only just New Jersey, but what's happening is now they fight us through litigation. And we had so many roller coaster rides with first Judge Baum slapping down New Jersey's BS laws, and then they appealed it and went through a three-panel judge, 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. What did the Democrats do? They, I guess, reinstated the law, with all the legal stuff. And you're talking, this can go on for years, right? I mean, how long has your law been? It's just been.
This would be year 2.5. So I started it. No, because I started a year before that, maybe 3 years. I started it, I think, the year of COVID. Right. I haven't even told that story. I legally can't even share everything. Because the county shit, you can't make up a script to tell the story of what happened with me. I can't wait for it to be over so I can share it. I talk about that sometimes on Blue Star, but you guys have no idea. And my framing of politics is not the conventional partisan framing of politics. A bunch of you are asking somewhat relevant questions here, like, what's going on with this? How do I comply with that? The whole point is that they don't want you to be able to comply. The whole point is to defeat you, demoralize you, break your spine, break your spirit, so that you do nothing. And the fact of the matter is, complying, they don't comply with their own rules. The state, the government, law enforcement, they don't comply with their own rules. And moreover, they put carve-outs for themselves after they pass the rules to harm you. So there's a lot we can get into that later, but I don't know if you had anything else.
No, but that exactly touches on why we exist as NJ2AS. We don't exist specifically to be a legal group or a law firm and make lawyers more money and richer, while we all wait patiently for years and years and years. I mean, it's been well over 10 years. Remember, we've been talking about, we met in 2012?
Something like 2011. When that speech happened at Calandro's place with Project Veritas?
Yeah.
That's the day we met. So it's almost 12 years ago, 11 years ago. And even then, I remember, I don't know how deep I want to get into this. I remember attacking the movement, and I won't call out a specific group or person, but the movement in New Jersey in general, saying, you're all doing it wrong. You're all playing democracy. Democracy is a losing proposition.
Yeah.
You are playing a numbers game in which you're just guaranteed to lose. So stop talking to them. If you've seen my NJ2AS speeches over here, stop talking in language they don't understand and speak their language. Talk about victimhood. Talk about egregious injustices, social injustices, feminism, racism, sexism, all the isms, right? That's the language they understand. Go through that route. And I remember being in an NJ2AS meeting in Brick, New Jersey at a VFW hall.
Okay.
And Frank Fiamingo was still the president at the time. Yeah. And you guys made the mistake of giving me the floor for like a minute, and I expounded upon this entire philosophy, and I said, the real way to win is, one, use those inflection points, right? Use those fulcrums to attack these people, but at the same time, inundate the system with applications so that we can flip the narrative that the approval rate at the time, prior to Bruin, was 99.99% approvals. That's what they used to hang their hat on. And if you can skew that the other way and then attack the politicians with video ambushes, calling them racist, calling them sexist, that would actually drive the discussion in another direction. And I know a lot of people who are still in the movement walked away and got angry because this was too mean and confrontational. Meanwhile, and this is me.
Meanwhile, people are in jail for 10 years for the lawfully
By the way,
acquired.
this is me talking. I am not speaking for NJ2AS. This is me personally talking. A lot of these people to this day, including the past few months, are still involved. And now they're defending the fact that we accept and welcome the training requirements by the state police.
So
you don't want to go there?
No. What I'm saying is, for those that maybe they're rolling their eyes or just are having maybe difficult time comprehending it in a tangible form. You were involved in a project where you went into Acorn, where it was
that was prior to me. But,
that was prior to you,
but it was the same organization.
Regardless, okay, they sent undercover videos to Acorn, which was some BS organization that was run by Democrats, and they recorded these people using taxpayer funds to solicit. I mean, underage girl. It was just crazy.
They were giving illegal advice on tax evasion, prostitution.
Yeah.
They were having they unwittingly were having a fictional conversation where they thought it was real, and they were authentically giving advice on how to commit tax fraud.
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
And I remember the big one was about the prostitution ring with the underage girls.
Right.
So all this was documented in videos, and ultimately was a Democrat Congress and Obama under a Democrat president.
And he was their former attorney.
They had to sign legislation to defund Acorn.
Right. And I know the attorney that worked on that case.
Yeah. So when people say like, "Oh, you can't do this with all the Democrats in New Jersey and all the Democrats in our legislature and everything else," it can happen. It can. You just have to speak their language. You have to do it in a way that they can't say no. And part of our undercover videos, and not even undercover, I'm actually going up to politicians and asking them questions, or people that work for us, going into these meetings over the past 7-8 years, and just speaking in a language that they can't say no to. We're talking the governor of New Jersey that we have had on videos, the attorney general of New Jersey, plenty of senators and assembly people, Democrats predominantly, that are running away from us, that if we were talking about, I don't know, voter rights, for instance, they would be screaming racism. If you just the
problem is whatever our side is, whatever you want to call it, they don't scream it enough. They think we foolishly think, well, that's like childish, stupid political things that I don't agree with. I don't like that. Instead of grasping that opportunity and saying, that's the language those people value, and that's the language their audience values, I will use it against them. That's the proper way of looking at it. Because what you're doing is you're devaluing the currency of that weapon. Yeah. Right? When you start using it for your causes, your purposes, and levy it against them, they either have to treat it as legitimate because they're treating it legitimately for their purposes, or they have to refute you, ergo refuting their own philosophy, saying that you're illegitimate for using those tactics. Yeah. So it's a catch-22 for them. But we never put them in the catch-22. I don't want to call it the right conservatives. I don't identify with any of these things. I'm way more different, way more out there. But they don't learn their lesson. It's like they put their hand on the flame and they go, ouch. Let me put my hand on the flame again. Ouch. Oh, I'm going to put my hand on the flame again. They don't change their tactics. And then they also, the biggest problem with the right and the movement is they believe in the state and they believe in the legitimacy of government and the regulatory environment that governs and takes away their natural rights. And it's evident in all of the little pieces of the puzzle, like, well, we'll agree to this training. Well, this is legitimate. People are bringing up here, wouldn't it be great if we can get past the need to apply for everything? You shouldn't have to apply for anything at all, right? Like, you should be furious that you have to apply at all. Forget the fact that it's in the Constitution, because I don't even use the Constitution as a justification for anything. It's irrelevant. I highly recommend a couple of books that I'll suggest later that you should read that will tell you why the Constitution is not even a good argument for this stuff. It's natural rights, which precede the state, precede the government, and they exist in a natural space, right? So, like, if I existed in the year 1600 or 1500, before the Constitution, before Europeans were even settled in the United States, if I just existed in a forest in Pennsylvania and another man came up to me and put a sword to my throat, would I not have the moral justification, the moral authority to protect myself from him? I would never in that instance say, well, there's this thing coming in 200 years called the Second Amendment, sir, and you can't put that sword to my throat. I'm going to punch you. No, it's absurd, right? No one would argue that man or that person has the right to defend themselves. It precedes and predates government. It has nothing to do with government. But if you want to, read Lysander Spooner's No Treason. He makes phenomenal argument. And he was a leftist anarchist. He's not even a right-wing guy in the 1800s. But you know what he was fighting in his day? The monopoly of the U.S. Postal Service. That's what he's most famous for, because he created a private sector postal service, and the American government went after him and shut it down because he was competing with a government monopoly. Yeah. And the government doesn't like when you compete with their monopolies, like violence, which therefore is the Second Amendment. They want them to, the government wants to hold the monopoly on violence all the time. You can never exert violence to defend yourself. Only the state can exert violence to steal money from you when it's tax season. Mm-hmm. That's when it's okay. Or to repossess your home. That's when violence is cool.
Going on I don't want to be talking.
No, these are great tangents.
Well, no. It's funny because if we're going to just go off track a little bit, they actually have laws, I believe, in the federal level that private companies cannot provide similar services to the post office for less than.
It's first class letter mail because it's not. Not to go too far, but it's literally not profitable if you had. Think about this: if I load a plane full of letters from New Jersey to Barrow, Alaska, right? Like the most northernmost town. Clearly, that is not the same operational cost as sending the same amount of letters across the street. Yeah. Right? Because it's a guy just literally walking across the street and dropping it in the mailbox 5,000 times, right? But the government is going to say, well, we need to make it the same cost for everything because back 200 years ago, everything went on a horse and it was important that we communicated. Everyone knows that letter mail is largely irrelevant. Everything's digital. There's no need for it. So what the government does is they go, we're going to put a monopoly on all first-class letter mail, and no one can send this type of mail. Only the government at this price point. Go to FedEx, take out a single sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper, and tell them, I want to mail this paper to California, the price will be high. And it's because they're artificially kept high by this monopolist, this legislation that keeps the USPS being relevant, even though they lose tons of money every year.
Well, it's funny because, there's a relevance here because the government make sure that nobody can compete with the post office the same way they make sure that nobody can compete with
violence.
It's
the same thing.
Why, and their arguments are always, well, why do you need a gun when you can call the police?
Oh, we can talk. Have I bored everybody with this? I know on Blue Star I talk about this stuff all the time. I don't think I talk about this stuff with NJ2AS, but that's very easy. And that's another fallacy of this movement where they'd be like, well, we have police. Let me stipulate a couple of things right off the bat. The police have no legal duty to protect you, ever. Ever. You can call them all you want. You can petition them. You can say you're getting raped, burgled, beaten, murdered, anything you want. And if they choose to not come out because they couldn't make it, they're busy, there's not enough officers, or they couldn't find your house, you have no legal case against them afterwards. And that's predicated on United States district court cases like Warren versus D.C. in 1981, which was a rape case. Supreme Court cases like Castle Rock v. Gonzalez in 2005, which was a kidnapping case with a restraining order. The government has no duty, or more specifically law enforcement, to enforce restraining orders. Like, you can get a restraining order on your abusive ex-husband. Yeah. And if he comes and kills you after, guess what recourse your estate has? Nothing. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's just a piece of paper that they write up saying, please don't do this. And
there's a great book. It's called Call 911 and Die.
Yep.
I highly recommend people read it because every time you have these conversations with family or friends and, the government, should protect, call the police and they'll protect you. Well, there's a whole book about people that called the police.
Yeah, how long are your carry permits taking?
Every single one of those, and every single one of those people were calling 911 and they were dying because they had no ability to protect themselves, and they were indoctrinated by the government to think that the government will protect them. So,
Yeah, it's a complete fallacy. I've talked about it a million times on my my group, and I'm happy to expound upon that stuff with anybody else. Wait till I tell you the stuff about my story. I can't wait to tell like not to like talk about my political story, but seeing what happened with my case as I'm living the partisan life. That is a fascinating saga that I can't wait to tell later on. But yeah, they have no duty to protect you. No one cares if they delay your permits. Try and sue them and see what happens. They have it's yet another monopoly. Someone will tell me will argue well, how can you argue against not having this or not having protection, not having cops or not having government or not having roads and all these bullshit conundrums they come up with. And it's very simple. It's do you like monopolies? It's tell me when monopolies are good. Do you like monopolies in food, in burger, like Burger King? You only want one Burger King? You like monopolies in healthcare? Do you like universal healthcare? You like one healthcare service? No, you don't like that. Do you like universal banking? Monopolized banking? Do you want a central banking system with digital currency and one central bank that gives you your money and creates all the bullshit inflation? Well, we kind of have that already. It's called the Federal Reserve. That's terrible, right? But the only thing that most people, especially conservatives and right-wing people, justify monopolies is school and policing. Suddenly, monopolies are amazing. Oh, I love when only this one entity gets to have a complete monopoly on violence and indoctrinating and abusing my children. That's literally because that's public school. So that's where we really need to shift the paradigm in activism, where people understand, oh, why aren't they doing this? Why don't I just write a letter? They don't care, right? They don't have to care about your safety. They don't have to care about processing your permit on time. That's why the earlier commenters said, oh, I wish I didn't have to apply. You're right. You shouldn't have to apply at all, right? You have the right to assembly and freedom of speech and walking around your town and holding a sign. You don't have to ask anybody for permission. But the second you want to purchase a firearm or carry it, there's suddenly these incredible hoops that you have to go through with ever-changing rules that are at their face value contradictory, that will put you in prison if you even try to comply it. If you know the story of my court order, look into that in that video and try to make sense of that. But yeah, man, it's made to put you in prison, demoralize you, and make you stop carrying.
And I want to emphasize, this is exactly why we're here. We want to make sure everybody becomes a better citizen activist. That's our goal. We want to make sure, like we did in 2015, the people that stepped forward, I mean, it was incredible. Remember, we went to the one police department and they were boasting about denying people that have physical disabilities, and they never lost a case. So what did we do? Luckily, one of our members, he's handicapped and he walks with crutches, so we sent him into that police department. And the cop was bragging. That government agent was bragging. The detective, whatever.
See, and he's been promoted since then.
Yeah, and then ultimately he was promoted. But that's why we have to change that narrative. We have to teach. We want to make a bunch of street fighters out of everybody.
I told that story when you had me go down to Texas last year. I told the story about that detective, and their jaws dropped.
Yeah,
they were like, "That's not real." And guys came up to me after from different states and were like, "You were making that up, right?" I'm like, "The video's online. You can watch the video of, I won't say his name, but the activist filming him unwittingly, because when you film people without them knowing, that's when the truth unwittingly comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you tell them, hey, I need to ask you some questions on camera, they're clearly not going to tell you the truth. They're going to lie to you. Yeah. But when you don't tell them you're recording them, that's when the reality sets in. That's when the truth inadvertently comes out. And this guy boasted about discriminating against blacks, women, elderly, handicapped people. I said in the speech, last year, I said, in this dramatic climax, the activist said, well, you see my handicap. Would you reject me if I were to apply? And he said, probably I would. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. I think I would, or something like that. Chillingly. And he's not joking. He's probably done this 5,000 times.
Yeah, and that detective was bragging about also denying women because they were too small, denying women because they were too old. He said, oh, one woman came in here with her nurse wanting to apply for a gun. And I said, don't even think about it,
Yeah, they're complete shitbags, and and because they have a badge, people are like, well, I can't say anything mean about them. I'm gonna lose my job, or people are gonna retaliate against me. Listen, you're literally talking as if you're describing the mafia. You're scared to say something against a bad person. A guy who tells you, I use the color of my badge, the color of law enforcement, to discriminate against minorities, women, elderly, and handicapped people. And they're literally I'm not being symbolic or allegorical. He literally said that out of his own mouth. And I'm not supposed to call him a piece of shit. That's what he is. Like,
whoa, this is a child-friendly channel.
no, it's not. Yeah, we're talking about serious stuff, man. They don't care about this stuff. Okay, this guy's asked us a couple of times. So like I said, this isn't like a law review, but I'm happy to like put it on there if you want to talk about what they're supposed to do about carry insurance. I know that that's up there in the legislation from last
that's all
December.
included in our current lawsuit.
I think you touched on it earlier.
Yeah, it's kind of being covered in our lawsuit, which is one of the things. Like, I know my lawyers are not going to like it, but that's why I just hate this legal system in regard to the fact that they kicked this count down the road. Remember how long? I mean, how many years did we talk about Drake? Oh, when Drake.
I
It was
kept hearing,
years and
it's
years
coming,
and years.
it's coming. It's not coming, dude.
Something big's
Yeah.
going to happen. Blah blah blah. You know, every lawyer was giving us this big runaround about that. And at the end of the day, we got screwed. We wasted 5 years of results-oriented activism waiting for lawyers to do it. And that's exactly what's happening now. Look at our lawsuits. Judge Bum slapped down the state. Basically, with all the new laws they passed, they appealed another Third Circuit panel of 2 Democrats and 1 Republican judge. And the Democrats were like, oh, we have to put a stay or whatever legal jargon and reinstate these laws. So the absurdity is you can go to a movie set that are recording a movie, but you can't go to a restaurant. It's just outrageous. It's absurd. And that's why we exist, is that we can stop that nonsense. That, you know, our right should not be delayed because of the court system. And the Supreme Court spoke, and they spoke very good in the Brune ruling. I mean, it was an incredible ruling.
It's abundantly clear.
Yeah, it's abundantly clear.
It's very narrow. It's not open to interpretation, although they're obviously not listening to it. When we know that that's part of the game, right? They'll just keep disobeying it. That's, again, why you cannot rely on, you know,
and
the methods of democracy in the state to solve all of these problems.
And the fact, the Attorney General, Matthew Platkin, whatever. When I approached him and I said, why are no black people in Newark getting gun permits to carry for self-defense? You know what he did?
I remember you were there.
I was there. He ran away. You know, but like putting me aside, imagine like 100 people were doing that. And that every time they open up social media, they're being attacked for the fact that people in urban neighborhoods, based off of what people tell us and contacting us about, that they're waiting 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. One woman, she waited so long that the chief actually responded in Newark and said, well, you know, it's been so long since you applied, you should reapply because the background checks are taking too long.
I actually want to touch. I am going to go through all the comments. I'm not skipping anything. We obviously will start talking once in a while for 3-4 minutes, and we may slow down, but I will get to them because there's comments about what you just said that are relevant that I want to touch after. Patrick Tucker saying, hypothetically, a law-abiding citizen. I hate the term law-abiding citizen. Just like stop saying it. Yeah. Stop like saying, well, I'm a law-abiding. Just say, I'm a human. I'm serious. Like, stop saying law-abiding. They create the laws and don't follow them. Like, so they're not law-abiding. Like, the people enforcing the laws aren't law-abiding. They break 2C58-3 every effing day.
All right, stop yelling at Patrick.
Yeah, I'm not yelling at Patrick. I'm just saying stop using that term. Just say I'm a human, I'm a person, and I'm getting abused because that's what's happening. It would take to save their life for a situation to change. If you save their life, nothing would change. They would keep it exactly the same unless there's pain. Until the pain is more to keep the status quo than it is to change it, that's the only thing that changes. And they don't feel pain from, you know, you doing a nice act to them.
Yeah, Patrick, that's a great point because the amount of times I've had people contact us and then they follow back up and say, oh, well, my friend is a detective and da-da-da-da, and, you know.
How far back? Say okay, your friend who's the detective,
yeah.
Oprah request his town and say, I'd like to know how many FPIC applications, carry applications you have in this town. I want to know the oldest. I want to know the newest. I want to know how many are active. I want to know how many rejected. I want to know how many approved.
They are,
and if there's one more than, first of all, there shouldn't be anyway. But I would bet my life there's one more than 30 days old on there.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear they're pro 2A in your town.
Yeah.
They're not because you have, you know,
and then like clockwork. The people that tell me this, oh, my friend or my uncle is going to talk to his friend, he's a cop, and they're going to work. 6 months later, they're coming back. Yeah. Nothing ever happened. I just wasted 6 months of my time being told, given the runaround. Excuse me.
I just got in a fight with Vin Gopal on Twitter a couple of weeks ago.
He's a senator, right?
Yeah, he's a state senator from like the Freehold area, like Monmouth County area. And it was about police pensions. And I was like, yeah, of course they endorse you. You voted to secure the fidelity of their pension. You extended their pension security. They don't like you. And he goes, well, I'm boots on the ground. That's why they trust me. I'm like, dude, you're so full of shit. You just gave them money. Like you just you're engaging in extortion. I'm going to hand you a bunch of money and then you support me and make sure I keep my job as a politician.
Ask him if he supported retired law enforcement being brought down to 15-round magazines.
Well, then they carve out for them.
But if you're a retired law enforcement,
make them match whatever the civilians have to do,
Yeah.
the regular people. And then he said he would have a conversation with me offline on a stream, online on a stream. He's like, take this offline. I'll talk to you offline with my people. 2 weeks went by. He's been ignoring me, so he's completely full of shit. Silver Ring just says, I like Monopoly. I used to love that game too, man. And if you play with the free parking, you're a jerk. Like, you cannot play with that rule. People like joking around. They don't want to hear you rambling all the time. The Democrats,
we got a lot of work to do.
Patrick, here's another great comment. And I'm not picking on you, Patrick, but you just keep giving me these good things to leapfrog off of. The Democrats in Jersey are Monopoly. So are the Republicans. Monmouth County, where I live, is a red county. Our town and the towns around us are all red towns. Guess if those towns are delayed or denying any of their applications. Yeah. Trust me, they're delayed, just like the Democrat towns. So this is not a partisan thing. How many Republican PBAs in Republican towns with PBAs, how many of their PBA union presidents are lobbying in Trenton saying that these laws are unjust and unconstitutional and that you don't deserve to suffer under the yoke of them? Zero. Not one of them. Not one of these pro-2A PBAs will ever speak out in your favor. But guess what? If they take away a retired officer's carry privilege or magazine capacity, they're the first to jump on that. But they'll never say, hey, they could make this argument. I made this many times. Our union members, our police officers, our members of law enforcement, their time is so valuable and the money of our municipalities is so valuable that they should not be doing permitting, following up and investigating all these permits because it's unconstitutional to begin with, and their time should be spent out getting criminals, right? Mm-hmm. They'll never say that, right? They won't make that argument either. So it's not a partisan thing. Like, are some towns relatively better than others? Yes, they're still breaking the law and they don't care. And I'm a prime example of that, along with dozens and hundreds of other people.
Somebody was asking about the lawsuits.
That's another thing. I think I want you to stipulate that. Which one was that?
Yeah, right there. The particular lawsuits you're involved in.
Am I dumb? Where is this?
Right there. You already have it. Plain nut.
Yes. So I think it's important that maybe you just shout out the names so they realize, hey, when you donate to NJ2AS, your money is going to serve a lawsuit printer of attacking the state. Yeah.
Well, and our results-oriented activism. That's why I think we're different, because we're not just funding lawsuits. We're funding tons of this. As you're going to see, we put our money where our mouth is, because you're going to see all the undercover work that we've done. And also remember, in 2020, when they were having the COVID shutdowns, I was the only person from the media that asked Governor Murphy the hard questions. And because of his responses, those responses were used in more lawsuits to reopen gun stores, gun ranges, etc. And the fact of the matter is, people criticize me, and you should see these other losers there, so-called media members, judging me and giving me attitude and whatever the case was.
When you go to these events.
Yeah, when I go to these events. But when they're asking about, how does somebody buy alcohol, or how does somebody get their driver's license with the DMV shut down, or renew their registration, okay, I was asking about a fundamental Second Amendment right, a natural right, as you were saying before, that as looting and rioting and crime was skyrocketing throughout New Jersey because people were doing it in desperation, you had no ability to protect yourselves. And because of us, we were able to have gun stores reopened just based solely on Governor Murphy's response to us that was then used in the lawsuits.
Yeah, that was early, because that was earlier. We were doing the streams in your old house, and that literally happened during the week of one of our streams.
But we're also I can't read it. Plain nut. We're one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit for all the restrictions that Governor Murphy enacted and the Democrats enacted in the legislature, which I've touched on before. Judge Bum, she actually overturned everything, so we had the ability to protect ourselves. We can actually carry our firearm in our vehicle without having to unload it, lock it up in the trunk of the car, magazine separate, and so forth. And then when it got appealed by the state and went to a 3-judge panel, 2 Democrats and 1 Republican, Then they reinstated all those terrible laws, but that's the kind of stuff that I frankly hate. I'm sick and tired of that, and I feel like if we were operating differently as a community, we would not have the narrative would be different, and that's the point. Next.
Yeah, man. I like I said, I wish I could just tell you some of the stuff that happened with.
Why
You got this sound. We got to take that away. All right, that's good now.
Do the mute.
Yeah, I wish I could share some of the stuff that happened with me because it'll blow your mind. Like, I was the first person in the county to get a carry permit because my case, this is all public, so it's like not like violating anything. My case was in federal court, and we were obviously, asking for relief on the injustice of the Superior Court's decision of denying me pre-Bruin. And so when we kicked it back, when the Bruin decision happened, we decided, hey, we want to get relief on this one thing. We're going to send that back down to Superior Court. And because I was already that far ahead, the Superior Court had to hear me. Oh, man, I can't draw. I can't draw in some of the details that make the story 10 times more salacious, but look up who my judge was the first time. Look up who my judge was the second time. Look at what I do in my local town. I'm on my council. I'll be mayor next year in my town. Look at that, and then look at the consequences of being involved in that litigation. I got a court order. I was one of the first people in the state. I was not the first person in the state, but the first person in the county, because I kind of skipped the line with the lawsuit. And they said I had to carry around the court order, right? So I have to carry this 4-page document around. I was restricted to the gun on my test. But moreover, I had to break the law in order to follow the law. And then I had to both comply with 2C58-4, and I think it's 39-3 or 36-3, which is the one about how it's transported for the range and stuff. But it basically said I could not have it on my person, so I had to treat it as if I was going to the range. But people who treat their transportation as if they're going to the range are people who don't have the carve out of 2C58-4, which is the carry right. So it's like, act like you have a carry permit, except pretend you don't have a carry permit. And what you have to do is put the gun in your trunk, drive to Walmart, then get out of your car, open the trunk, take the gun out of the box, take the ammo out of another box, load the magazine with ammunition and cartridges, put that in the gun, rack it, put it in your pocket, and cover it. I had to do all of that in public, supposedly. Obviously, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Like, first of all, there could be some cop there undercover who just shoots me because he doesn't know that I have a carry permit, because I'm literally forbidden by a court order from concealed carrying. Yet I'm being given, just so you understand, I'm being given the first carry permit while being told I can't carry, and I have to take it out of my trunk and load it in public.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that, but it's implying that because I can't have it on my person. So what am I supposed to do? Jump in my trunk, close the latch, do it in the trunk, loading all this stuff, put it on my body, and then jump out of the trunk like I'm a cartoon or something?
Yeah.
Clearly, I can't do that. What if another carry permit holder sees a weird guy loading a gun in the parking lot at Walmart? He might plug me right then and there.
But
the least dangerous but still dangerous thing is some soccer mom who's just shopping sees me load a gun and walk in the store and goes, "This nut job's about to shoot everybody." 911. There's a guy with a black tracksuit on who's about to shoot up the Walmart, and guess who's coming and pointing their muzzles at me after that? All of that made the situation more dangerous, impossible to comply with, and that came from a judge.
Yeah.
Who is a former law enforcement officer himself.
What judge was it?
You look. I don't want to say too much. Look up the case. It's all public if you want to, and draw the dots of his history in the party, in the county, and you can figure out all. If you know Monmouth County, you'll know the players.
You and Patrick made up. So
I love Patrick. I don't hate Patrick at all. I'm more angry. Patrick's a nicer guy than me. I'm more jaded. And
I like
angry.
what you're saying, Patrick. Sometimes when I'm being sarcastic, I say law-abiding peasants.
So 3%er is asking about. I think he's talking about Judge Bum's decision. Yeah. I don't know if you want to comment on that. I'm not so much the.
I can't read what
it keeps going off the screen. There we go.
Isn't the thong anymore?
Isn't a thong? Isn't a thing anymore? I think he's trying to say, are we not allowed to carry in the areas? I believe that's part of the injunction is the locations and all of that.
And I'm not going to pick on this guy because I've literally talked to law enforcement in my town, even to issuing people, and they're just like, wait, what happened? I thought
they don't even know.
They don't even know.
The time.
I'm just like, no, we got. And just to answer your question, 3%er. It got appealed. Judge Bum's ruling got appealed, which was a fantastic ruling, 250-something pages long, talking about how wrong the state was. And got appealed to another panel, 3-panel judge. And like I said before, it's they overturned Judge Bum, which is another absurd thing. So,
But I think it can go to the full panel.
it's going to go to the full
It's
panel,
not-
which I believe in the Third Circuit is majority Republican, which doesn't even mean anything anymore, to be honest with you. But hopefully the Supreme Court will step up and do something about this again and not allow this because it's absurd. But the point is, this is a whole. Everybody's asking about these lawsuits, right? Which is
they just want like the legal stuff.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But our goal here, our purpose is not to need these lawsuits anymore so that we can change the narrative and not have to depend on lawyers for every little thing that we have to do in our lives. And that's the point, because this litigation can go on for years. And what happens is the lawyers get richer, and then we wait around like we did with the Drake case and this case and that case, that I remember over the 10 years that we've been involved.
Yeah, and I would, again, this is very controversial, especially on like right-wing Republican circles, but I dare say that like you'll get to the destination faster if you change the culture, right?
Exactly.
If you stop like kissing these people's rears like they're heroes and say, no, you're actually a bad person because you're contributing to the complete usurpation of my rights. And you don't deserve my reverence, you deserve my disdain.
Yeah.
And the problem is the right doesn't do that. They're like, well, we understand it's not your fault. It's the legislators. Like, it's the laws that they're making. No, they're enforcing the laws that those people write. And as Michael Malice always says, if any of you follow him, he says something like, laws are just letters written to Santa Claus without men and women in uniform willing to enforce them. Which is true, right? Like, someone in Trenton can make up the most... Okay, here's a perfect example. Cannabis, right? The federal government says that
Perfect
cannabis is a
example.
Schedule 1 drug, and you deserve to be in a cage for years if you are found in possession of it, right? However, whoa, what are you doing? I'm trying to look at yourself.
Yeah, no, I clicked on something. Right?
So, where was I? Okay, so the federal government would put you in a cage for a long time if you were in possession in many states. But then there are some states where they'll just like, yeah, we're not enforcing that, and cops don't care, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So even though it's quote unquote passed in a law by dumb legislators, and they are dumb, nobody cares. Nobody enforces it, right? So you could have that same principle here. You could have Murphy sign a law that says, oh, carrying's illegal, and then your local police chief just goes, yeah, I'm not enforcing that here. But they'll never do that because they want to keep their pension. They want to keep the prosecutor happy, the AG happy.
I do know a lot of police officers and police chiefs that have actually done the right thing and not enforcing and using discretion, officer discretion.
There's not one that was handing out. Actually, that's not true. Prior to Bruin, they only handed out permits to people who were like influential and celebrity and
that actually goes.
That's even worse. Actually,
Yeah,
it'd
that's
be
even
better
worse.
if they just did it to nobody.
And we do have video to prove that the only person that got a carry permit in Essex County through a certain police department that we recorded was a person that was friends with the judge and the chief. So that's I can't wait to release that video because it will show the hypocrisy. Another thing that I believe a lot of people always talk about, Democrats, they hate guns. They love guns. They all have guns. They love guns, but only when they have them. And that's why if you look at what the left does throughout this country and with these riots and they're burning and looting and destroying cities and whatever these protest things are, they don't want you having a gun because they want you defenseless. But they don't care if they have the guns. They want to make sure that you don't have a gun. And that's what I strongly believe.
Yo, our boy Keith Pantaleon. He's
Who's that?
Are you for real? Isn't it funny that the Maine thing happened when the state happened when all these carry issues are starting to turn in our favor? Keith, I'm on your wavelength, and probably there's 2% of us listening right now that are on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
But it's always convenient how these benzodiazepine rushes happen when there's suddenly a political climate for it. But I'm with you, man.
Yeah, I saw some headline about some, I forgot it was such a ridiculous thing. It was basically attacking concealed carry, but the way they worded it was so just absurd. But
so people keep asking legal questions. I'm not going to necessarily answer legal questions, but people are responding.
So we do have an attorney that will definitely get on the show, our weekly show, to answer all this stuff, and we'll emphasize that when we broadcast this information. But right now, our real goal is to make sure, is to really activate people to say enough is enough. We have to change the narrative. We have to change this dialogue that's happening not only in the state of New Jersey, but around the country. Because the fact of the matter is, based on the FBI statistics, about 4.5 million people a year use a firearm for self-defense. And nobody ever talks about that. And also, like, the way that, like, you're going to see our videos, the way I approach and I confront these politicians that are passing these bad gun laws and disarming people, making people easy victims. You see the way they run away. They don't answer the question, which is answering the question, and how that conversation has changed.
Oh, dude, Slappy Joe, who is the man. Slappy is a guy that follows us at Blue Star. He's hilarious. I actually miss talking to you, man. It's great to see you. New Mexico just had that happen, though. Grisham passed the emergency ban for Albuquerque, and the cops there said they weren't going to enforce the carry ban.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Nullification. That's what that's called. Nullification. And some people with a soul and a conscience and morality will go, I don't care that I'm getting paid to harm people. I will not do it. Right? So this is the analogy I always make, and that's a great point, Slappy, right? In that instance, and it's happened in Louisiana, there was a bunch of sheriffs that refused to enforce laws there. It's happened multiple times across the United States. It's happened in many countries. The point is, if I worked at Walmart, and I was a Walmart greeter, and I got paid $15 an hour, whatever they get paid, and I needed that paycheck, right? Like, I need that to pay my rent, to put food on the table, and my boss came up to me and said, hey, every time a small child walks in the threshold I want you to punch them in the face. Would you, as the Walmart greeter, go, well, I'm just following orders, man. I'm just trying to keep my job.
Yeah.
Boom, and just like punching every little girl that walks by. Don't get mad at me, sir. I have to punch your daughter. Hold on. Boom, and just punching everybody in the face. You'd be like, that's crazy. You don't assault kids. You don't do that. It's literally immoral. It doesn't make it moral to do something because you accept money for it, right? That's the moral fulcrum, right? That's taking money to do an order doesn't make it moral. It just makes it that you got paid to do immoral things. So when these cops make the same argument that like, oh, I'm just doing my job, man. I'm just trying to keep my pension. I got kids.
Isn't there a word for people that take money to do things that are illegal?
Yeah, and it was the Nuremberg defense, right? So it's like, if you apply this logic to anything else, you would be like, that's crazy. Your kids do this all the time. Like if you're a parent, your kid will go like, oh, well, that kid said he needed help, so I jumped off the bridge with him. Like, no, you don't do something just because someone tells you to do it. You look at the proposition and you go, oh, I can't do that because that is either harming someone or hurting them, denying their rights. I'm being abusive towards these people, and I'm not going to participate in it. Some people answer that call and some people don't.
And the point is, you're going to see eventually over the next couple of weeks and a couple of months, the content, like once we shed light on this problem, people just miraculously get their permits within days, a week or two after waiting.
You've done that in many towns.
Many towns, yeah. So
it's amazing what happens just showing up.
Yeah, just showing up.
You've been to council meetings before.
Yeah.
You've been to one of our council meetings.
Yeah.
I've been to council meetings in other towns to speak on behalf of other people just for fun. And it is amazing. Once they hear like a little bit of rhetoric, it's like, oh, that could be illegal. It's like, just get rid of this person. I give them what they want, make them go away.
Exactly, yeah. So there's it's just that's the whole point, is shedding light. And that's the kind of army that we want to build in regard to exposing this corruption. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And we have done that, and we have video evidence to prove it, and that's what we're going to start releasing until all this has changed, until we have the Democrat legislature saying, constitutional carry sounds like a real good thing right now because I don't want to be, responsible for this delays, discrimination, this racism, this sexism anymore.
Yeah, dude. Oh, Keith makes another great point. Rittenhouse incident proves that lefties love guns and let their stooges carry while throwing the whole library at their opponents. What was the goofy name, Royd Riker, of the guy he shot? He had like a Germanic, Eastern European name. The guy that Rittenhouse shot. If you know it, Keith, put it in the comments. He just got run over by like a car. Like he got shot. The one that got shot in the arm.
Yeah, but
I think he just got like run over by a car. He's like a cat with 9 lives. He keeps like evading death. But it's a great point, man. Like, yeah, there were people carrying guns in that protest, pointing it at him. He shoots them, and suddenly, like, he's evil, but not them for pointing the gun to begin with. 3% are asking here, has there been a defensive use of a CC holder in New Jersey? I don't know of one. I don't really follow this stuff
And
terribly
if there
closely,
was, you will not hear about it because they don't want to. I was going to say arm our side with facts, but
most people are scared. I can't tell you how many people got a carry permit and have never used it, and they're scared to use it because of this evolving, ever-changing carousel of rules.
Yeah.
And so most people are kind of like paralyzed and don't even want to exercise.
And here, I sat through these hearings, and it was insane. The Attorney General, not Attorney General, the Assistant for the Attorney General, her last name was Kai, C-A-I, and she said that we don't have standing in our lawsuit because nobody's been actually arrested yet for the way the law is being applied.
Yeah.
Like, can you believe the absurdity?
We haven't ruined one of your constituents' lives yet,
And Judge Baum slapped her down and said, the law is really clear. People will be serving whatever it was, 5, 7, 10 years for violating this law. How do you expect law enforcement to enforce it when it's crystal clear? And it blew my mind that this was the level of intelligence when it came to the state making their arguments.
Yep, Keith's saying New Mexico, they don't have qualified immunity there anymore. That's great.
Oh,
It should
interesting.
be everywhere. If you're for Second Amendment rights, you should be against qualified immunity in all its forms. Patrick Tucker, they want the younger generation to have medical cannabis cards, so they have no legal rights to firearms. Yeah, so that's part of that nullification problem. So it's federally illegal, but in New Jersey, we nullify it. However, on the 33 form, you have to answer the drug question. Are you a drunkard or a drug user, right? Isn't something like that? So inadvertently, if you admit to one thing, you're disqualifying yourself from another thing. And Patrick, my opinion, you should be able to smoke, drink, do whatever you want and own a firearm, and it shouldn't matter. Police officers are allowed to smoke marijuana, and they carry a firearm every day. So there's nothing wrong with them doing it in New Jersey. And in fact, they just got a carve out for it. So you should be able to do it too. Slappy says Dan's analogy loony factors at 97 out of 100. Walmart greeter assault weed. It is hyperbole is meant to prove a point. It's supposed to be ridiculous so that you go, that is ridiculous. It's a little exaggerated, but I see the connection to the less obtuse version of the story when it comes to the government. Lil Pope says, what happens if the passengers and you get pulled over? Do you have to say that you're carrying?
I believe the state now the new laws.
They changed the duty to inform after.
Yeah, you have
Again,
to.
I'm not
Before you did not have to. Now
advice,
you do.
But
we can't give legal advice.
Grosskreutz. Yes, Grosskreutz. He had some like goofy German name. Yes, Grosskreutz.
Enough of your bromance with Keith.
Yeah, I love you too. I love Keith, man. Keith gets my weird brain and the way I rationalize things. And Keith has a way of telling stories. He's a storyteller.
I wouldn't know. He hasn't called me back in 3, 4, 5 years maybe.
Keith is like me. He loves analogy and like fable, right? So he'll be like, have you ever seen Wedding Crashers? And he'll tell some like elaborate analogy, and it helps to understand things.
Keith, we're going to get a couch on the other side of the studio.
Gage Grosskreutz. Thank you, Stephen Daniel. And Slappy had it too. Thanks, guys. I'm always like a couple minutes behind because I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but thank you all. This guy's talking about duty to inform. In malls, you can bring a well-behaved animal while my firearm is concealed and well-behaved. Rev Biker, I remember you.
Oh
man.
wow, Rev Biker.
I've met you a couple of times with your wife. I believe.
Yeah, his wife. Yeah.
You're like a really big dude, and I remember your wife being kind of small framed. And you're super nice, and I always remember you from the streams as well, man. So
I wish he talked nicely about me. You know?
Yeah, he's nicer to me than you are. I like him a lot, man. It's actually like I'm ashamed to say I haven't thought about you in a few years because we haven't done these streams, but that's really cool. Great to see you, man. Rev Biker's a lifetime member, so we're caught up with comments for now. But the numbers are at all-time high here.
Yeah. Listen,
appreciate you being here.
I have 2 books by Anthony Calandro signed. So if we get 2 life members tonight to join NJ2AS.
We should ask a question. We should ask a question, and they should have to put it in a comment. And the first person to comment the correct answer should get the first 2 people to put the correct answer should get the book. Do you think so? Drive some interaction, man.
I mean,
yeah. Well,
how about let's we need to.
All right, give one away like your way, and give one away my way.
This isn't trivia night.
Yeah, you should do trivia. Make sure they're paying attention, man. I'm telling. What's your way? What's your way, big guy?
No, the next 2 life members.
Ooh, the Devils are winning, by the way.
All right, well, okay, we stay on topic here, Mr. ADHD. Yeah, we have 2 signed copies of Anthony Calandro's book, good friend of mine. And if you become a life member tonight, the next 2 people that signed to become life members or make equivalent donation will get the signed copy book.
Life member, how much? What's the
It's
life member?
$500.
Oh, that's
for
not
a
bad
life
to be a
member.
life member.
Not at all. And look at all that you get. I mean, all the work that we've done. You know, you think about everything that we've accomplished as a small organization that literally just started at somebody's kitchen table. I mean, we've done a lot of major accomplishments. The amount of people that we've gotten pardoned, the laws that have changed, the police departments, how they, through Operation Establish Compliance.
Being cited by major politicians are the former governor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, we're like the number one most hated group in New Jersey because of our effectiveness. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, there's something unique about this group in terms of New Jersey groups. So today, you guys hold a special place in my heart, and because you kind of have that DNA of like Project Veritas.
I just, I had this right in front of me. I'm very happy. Like we've gotten, if anybody has access, like we will protect your identity. I'm actually very happy over the next in the past couple of years, how many people have stepped up. You know, people on the inside that said, I can't stand this stuff. And they sent us like internal documents from the courts. You know, the Moms Demand Action people that were just like, this is crazy. They sent us the manual, their training manual. And you look through it, it's like, it's quite disgusting on, you know, how some ineffective language to avoid. You know, the legal interpretation of Second Amendment protections is complex. The nuances of these decisions will take years to sort out.
I would just go up to these people dressed in like, I would dye my hair like a wild color. I would wear like some rainbow shirt, right? And I would, I have pink glasses, by the way, that I wear unironically. I would wear my pink glasses. And I would go up to these like white suburban wine moms and be like, yeah, I'm just like so glad all these black people in Newark aren't going to be able to get a gun. Like, oh, can you imagine? We'd be screwed. I would just like indulge overt racism to them under the guise of like we're in private. And I guarantee some of them would be like, oh, I know. Oh, yeah, that would be terrible. Some of them would say something dumb. And that might be a better way of getting
stay tuned
these people.
because we may or may not have videos of, you know, these Moms Demand Action people actually making racist comments like that. So
maybe they're there already. That's what I mean, man. Like crying about democracy. Oh my God, look at these Democrats. No, like change the culture, right? Talk about who the people are that are the actual obstacle to your freedom, the actual impediment to your freedom. And at the same time, talk to your enemies in the language they understand, in the language that forces them to confront their hypocrisy. If you keep trying to convince them of your own rhetoric and your own philosophy, you're fighting a losing battle with people that have room temperature IQ. It's you're literally like you're Sisyphus. You're trying to do an impossible act. It's not.
Here's part of it. This is comical. What the other side says and how to counter. The strongest opposing argument. The NRA is about one thing: defending American freedom. Best way to counter. We all love freedom. We all love freedom, including being free of gun violence and all the pain it brings into people's lives. I mean, this is how they're training these people. They're not just like a bunch of moms that just showed up one day and said, enough is enough. These are people that are like a bunch of shills, in my opinion, that are being professionally trained by billionaires like Bloomberg.
You guys, don't laugh at this. This is really intelligent.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually very effective because they're owning the language, right? So they're doing to you what I'm saying to do to them, right?
Yeah.
So can I borrow this?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're using this buzzword. This is the first one's like a perfect example. The strongest opposing argument. The NRA is about one thing, defending American freedom. And I don't care about the NRA, but let's say the gun movement's about one thing, defending American freedom. And they're saying the best way to counter that is we all love our freedom, including being free from gun violence and all the pain it brings into people's lives. See, they're not like saying that the other side is wrong. They're embracing their language. See, we love freedom too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So now you're forced, you on our side, you're forced to like either reject that rationalization in which you're calling them a liar, or you have to play in their realm and be like, oh, well, that's your concept of freedom. Now you're in this like debate, you're like legitimizing them, right? They're smart. They're drawing you into play when your language restrictions.
Exactly. And to take that further, in one of the meetings, I remember they were actually training people where they did studies. They actually spent a lot of money on these studies between using the word ban or prohibit. Yeah. And no matter what, the general consensus was, no matter what side you're on, you could be the most left-wing anything, right? Most Americans don't like banning things. So they start training these so-called activists to use the word prohibit. We just want to prohibit people from getting assault weapons, weapons of war, and take them off the streets. Opposed to using the word ban, we want to ban assault weapons quote unquote, and get them off our streets. This is the level of psychology that they go through where they do all these tests on how to use buzzwords the right way and not to use certain buzzwords.
Yeah, call them racist, dude. Do you remember like Asbury Park used to have a question with a test to get your FPIC? Somebody had sued. Someone in the gun movement had sued like 10, 15 years ago. Part of the FPIC process was like you had to answer this multiple choice test, and there were like double negatives in the question, which is confusing.
Oh, I remember this.
Because then like the reader is like, are they trying to speak colloquially? Like, or are they actually trying to trick me with a double negative? And then they were saying, oh, yeah, you got one wrong. Sorry, we can't give you your permit. It was just an excuse to not give people's permits. Keith is bringing up here. Let me decline this.
Yeah.
Keith is bringing up here, when dealing with NJ2AS leadership, get them in camera and ask them leading questions. Get them to let their mask flip like a certain NYU professor who called Brazilians something racist. So Keith,
we already have that. And when we went to one of the meetings, I was actually interviewing people, and that's proving exactly what Keith was saying.
Yeah, so back when I was doing the Blue Star thing, like heavy, before the partisan stuff started, and I had to take a break from it, I got this NYU professor to come on one time and talk to me. And that was like one of the most popular streams. I had like, I don't have a huge audience on there, but it was like over 100 people the first time yelling at me, blowing up my phone, messaging in the comments saying like, say this to this guy, say that. I'm like, listen, I'm not dumb. I know all the arguments you know. I know already what he thinks and his rationalizations. I was trying to kind of treat him with kid gloves because I didn't want to offend him and get him to run away because I wanted to bring him in for further conversations. I wanted to indulge him on this weird premise he had about senatorial reform and stuff. So I let him have a second stream where he talked about that without any, without any obstacles. And then a third stream where I brought Keith on and let him talk to him. And I kind of took a back seat. And the proof is there when they inadvertently like expose these little nuggets of reality, little nuggets of truth about what they think, in which they do inadvertently admit racist things. But this guy was like frustrating because he would be like slippery. I remember us talking about morality, like, is it moral for someone to do something violent against someone else? And he kept like saying, well, what is moral? And blah, blah, blah. Like, he just kept saying these evasive semantical things. But check it out if you want to see a guy slithering around. It was Keith did a
No, but that's a very valid point about what Keith was saying.
Patrick, appreciate the hard work you guys do for us. Hopefully one day we'll run into each other so I can shake your hands. I'll give you this. For Election Day on Tuesday, I'm going to have a get-together in Englishtown with all the locals. Anyone that wants to meet me, you're invited. Are you doing anything Tuesday?
I don't even know.
Come to Englishtown, man.
I mean, your story is so, like, I wasn't going to say word powerful, but, like, it's amazing. I mean, you're being very humble about it, but you went from being... being a resident of your town, then you went and you became a councilman, and now you're becoming the mayor. I mean, it's pretty powerful, and I think that's where I have somebody that's very involved in politics. He wants to do all these PACs and political work. We're so overwhelmed with the level of work, and I like because this guy, instead of just criticizing and telling us what we should do, he's actually helping now. It's actually forming a good legal political PAC so that we could endorse guys like you and girls and women to run for politics, how to get involved in politics, because you went from the grassroots, you went from nothing to now you're becoming the mayor of your town.
Well, the only reason not to
and that requires a whole podcast.
That's like a whole other discussion, not related to NJ2AS, but people think that democracy is like get the most votes. It's not. Mm-hmm. It's hyper. There's this entire power structure within the parties, and you really can only play within the majority party of your county and town, right? So like, it doesn't matter what party you are in local politics. You have to just run under the majority party. But yes, we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff in Englishtown. Some of it's largely unrelated to firearms, but you better believe I'm going to be making commentary and trying to, let's just say, solidify a few foundational things about whatever power we do have in the locality, which is relatively little, but there is some. But moreover, the rhetoric I hope to contribute to the culture war, to the public lexicon, saying things that most people in elected office will never say because they would be scared of losing their position, whereas in my town it's so small that that risk is there, but less important, and frankly, if I lost it, I wouldn't really care.
The critical thing is the fact that So you ran in a primary. He won against the incumbent mayor. How long was the mayor? 20-something years?
23 years.
23 years. And there's nobody opposing on the Democrat side. So it's basically like, what is the term? Shoe-in, a slip, like you.
A slip-in? That's something else. I mean, short of somebody putting a massive write-in campaign, which could happen, and we've beaten people in write-in campaigns. And our town is so small that we can literally beat you off the line with a write-in campaign if we're so inclined. Yeah. So it truly is like grassroots. You literally have to know the neighbors.
And this is probably like I've sat in your meetings and like you speaking up and actually vocalizing what a lot of people like were thinking. And I think that's where I saw that movement build up. Because if you look at the overall population, most people own guns in the state of New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
There's millions of gun owners in our state. But the fact is, like, they're too ashamed.
I wouldn't say most, but many.
Well, a lot, yeah.
More than people think.
Yeah, more than people think. I mean, because that's the biggest problem is that people come up to me like, well, yeah, I own a couple guns, and I do it for this, and I use it for home defense. I was, oh, great. You want to be, like, on a video with us or public? No, I don't want to do that. Da, da, da. It's like they're ashamed. And that's part, like, that's when the left are winning because, like, imagine, like, you're being ashamed of your whatever, you don't want to talk about it publicly. The same thing about being a gun owner. You have to be vocal about this stuff. I mean, you should I think, your first law that you should pass, what it should be in your town?
Not one of these symbolic resolutions.
Kennesaw, Georgia. They passed an ordinance.
You can't do that.
They passed an ordinance where every resident of the town, you know what? Everybody make a comment right now. Tell Dan that he should make pass an ordinance that requires everybody in the town of Englishtown to own a gun.
I don't even believe in that, but like that's basically you're doing Obamacare.
But in
COVID.
Kennesaw, Georgia, the crime went from a lot to like practically I think there was like only 2 or 3 incidents of crime after the year they passed that because everybody knew that everybody in the town would be armed or believed to be armed.
Right, but that's no different than like the coercion of like taxation.
Hashtag make Englishtown armed.
Well, Rev Biker's asking where in Englishtown and what time. So my best friends in town are the Maeda family. They own Maeda's restaurant on Tennant Avenue, a town small. It used to be called People's Pizza for some of you that lived in the Manalapan
area. Is that the pizzeria that's not open on Sunday afternoon?
They're only on Sundays. They open late because they, that's their family time and whatnot.
That was an inside joke. I went to for pizza one day, Sunday.
So are you gonna come?
Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah.
All right. So Tuesday night, the polls close at 8. I'll be at Maeda's a little bit before, but then I'm going to go to watch the count just to like see what's happening. And then I'm going to go back to Maeda's. So I'll be there like 7 and 8 o'clock. I'll briefly leave and I'll be back like 15, 20 minutes later. And I'll be there having a drink, having some food. So if anybody wants to meet us, come to Maeda's in Englishtown, 8 p.m. on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, and we'll be there. Alejandro for governor. Is that ever going to happen?
Thank you, DiBernardis. Dr. DiBernardis.
Georgia 2, I think. Here's Keith again. Ordinance to own a gun, and it has to be funded by wine moms who demand restriction. Yeah, the wine moms are so easy. It's like everyone's so scared. Don't fight them. Just indulge their whim with inappropriate rhetoric. And then they have to stop you.
Yeah.
Like, put them on having to stop you from saying something, right? Don't try to argue with them. Just be like, oh, yeah, like, who can you imagine those people
gonna be,
carrying a gun?
That's going to be the whole point. You'll see I go up to these moms, asking questions. They run away. They can't answer them. They don't even know why they're there sometimes. There was one legislator
Property tax breaks based on number of guns owned.
I think Keith should be your chief of staff.
Keith has escaped. I won't say where, but he's escaped. He's out of the matrix, so he doesn't care anymore. He's just laughing at us from the outside at this point. So what else do we got to cover, man? You're going to start putting out some of this content.
Yeah, it's going to be weekly content. So the way we want to do it is put out the content like on a Monday, and then Thursday, help disseminate it. Also, something I want to talk about is the shadow banning going on throughout social media. It's outrageous what they do to silence us. I went through this whole Facebook authorizing thing, blah, blah, blah. They had to send me a card to my house to verify my address. I had to send copies of my driver's license. I went through this whole ridiculous process. And then I went to go to promote and boost the story. And then like 2 weeks later, they said, oh, you have to go through this process. I already went through that process. I went through a whole process to verify my identity. And they keep doing it. And I'm actually very surprised how many people don't know about shadow banning. We could have, like, let's say on our Facebook, we have 13,000 something followers. We post something on NJ2AS Facebook page. And traditionally you should have between 2 and 5% of your followers that engage and react to your content. But you might have something like where I put a post up and it has like 5 likes, where it's statistically impossible that many people on our page don't see the content or don't react to it.
Yeah, you're being deboosted.
Well, yeah, but some people don't like. I've actually had this conversation with very smart people, and they're just like, "What?" And so, like, digitally, it's not like a billboard on a highway where you drive by it and you can't miss it, right? But it's a good analogy because when you're on your feed looking at things on social media, you can have algorithm in the background that prevents you from seeing what the people you follow are posting. And this has been very common with, I don't like labeling as conservative or liberal when it comes to us, but, they want to label gun rights as a conservative movement. So they deboost you. So you don't see the content or you don't see it as often as you would with like, some left-wing group that's posting about like, I don't know, some...
It's not even just necessarily like... It's also omission, right? Like then it's just like you just don't even see a particular narrative, but you do see the tinge of another narrative. Another thing they do is the shadow banning is like, this happens all the time on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. There will be someone that like I follow, and I remember seeing their content all the time. Then for 6 months, I will not see their content. It's as if they fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Then suddenly one day they start showing up again. And it's all on the following tab, not on the For You, like curated tab. And all of a sudden it's like, how? And then you go through their feed. Did they just stop tweeting? And you're like, they've been tweeting for the last 6 months.
Exactly.
So the system just stops.
Exactly.
It even unfollows people.
Yeah.
I've had people just randomly being unfollowed all the time.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And this is the kind of war that we're up against is, I call it modern warfare. They won't come and, put a gun to your head, or maybe they will, but they will basically deplatform you so you could have a big following on social media, but nobody will see your content.
There's an argument to be made that people will make the argument that the digital age and like Web 3.0, like it's the most free we've ever been, the most free we will ever be. You can make an argument for that. You can make an argument that it's worse, right? Because the pre-internet, propaganda would be controlled through the media. And their power was mostly in silencing like physical speech, right? So like you wouldn't see a protest, you wouldn't see a counterpoint, you wouldn't see opposition, right? So now it's different. It's not only, and people think, well, I'd rather have somewhere online to go, like a social network or a message board, right? It's oddly more perverse now because not only can they take away the speech, right? Censor you from seeing speech. They can drive and program proactive speech, right? They can actually give this facade that all of these different nodes of communication or seemingly disparate connections, disparate voices, disparate relationships are like a hive humming the same tune. And that psychologically like makes people think something to be true, right? Like, oh, I saw it on this, I saw it there, I heard it on Twitter, then I saw it on a newspaper's Facebook, and then I saw it on the TV. And it's like, it becomes this hive mind thing where it's not just censoring, it's programming. Like they can actively program a message.
Google does a big job of that. When you're looking things up, they'll give preference to people that they agree with. So like if you're searching for stuff, you'll find like, I think there was something that came out in WikiLeaks about how Google was like suppressing all the information about the positive uses and positive benefits of owning a gun, where all they talked about was like gun violence. So every time you looked up anything about guns, all you saw was negative things. So people are going to deduce like, oh, well, owning a gun, the big thing, like if you own a gun, you're more likely to be killed with it than actually use it in self-defense. Like this is the kind of BS that's in these arguments that are being made in this training manual.
Everyone also like treats this like it's a binary transactional thing, and it's not, right? Like, so people make the analogy about the fire extinguisher, right? The equivalent would be to say, not to buy a fire extinguisher because you're scared of there being a fire. It's like the argument they're making, the opposition is, no one should buy fire extinguishers because 99.9% of people who buy them lose money. Right? See, like the losing money part, that's the equivalent of what they're saying to the guns, right? Like,
what fire?
We know we're losing money. I know I likely won't use the extinguisher and it expires and I have to buy another one, right? The point is, I'm buying optionality. Like, I'm simply giving myself an option. It doesn't matter whether I'm more. It wouldn't matter if I'm statistically more inclined to shoot. first of all, when someone says, well, you're statistically more inclined to shoot myself. No fucking duh. Like, yes, because you're introducing the gun into your reality. So that comment goes without saying. Of course I'm statistically. It's like saying, if I put a bag of cheese doodles here, I'm statistically more likely to eat cheese doodles than if I never brought them in the room.
If you drive a car, you're
yeah, of course I'm more likely to do that. It's just a reality. It still doesn't negate my argument or my right to do it and my opportunity that I'm buying and having it there. Like, or getting, not to use buying, not to use it like in a transactional way, but everybody who uses these tired, cliche ways of arguing things as if the obvious weren't true conversely. Like, but we already accept it to be true. It's not an argument what they're saying.
But that's exactly the point. Like, that's all covered in all of this. Like, they actually, in this training manual, people think like, oh, all these moms just suddenly come up with this great, theories and philosophies and, they have a thesis on, gun violence. No, it's all in here. It tells you like, well, I want a gun to protect my family. It's like, well, how do you respond to that? Like the one thing we were just reading.
Right.
It's like, oh, that you're statistically more likely to get killed by your own gun than actually. This is the whole like reprogramming and re-engineering of society. It's all like in these handbooks that luckily we got copies of. And, I'm looking forward to sharing it. And I don't know how we're going to do that part on top of publishing the entire article. But I don't know. I'm envisioning something like in front of the fireplace in a rocking chair. Like in today's lesson, we're going to cover, XYZ.
Billy Lewis, I'm sure he's already screen capturing this video and diligently informing the prosecutor's office of everything that I'm saying.
Who's Billy Lewis?
A good friend.
Why was he asking about buffalo cauliflower? How did he know I was hungry?
Who asked about that?
He asked anybody smell buffalo cauliflower.
Oh, he said that?
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. Oh, anyone smell buffalo? He did. I didn't even see that, dude. He probably. Oh no, I don't think he's working. Oh yeah, I think he's checking into work right now, so that's why he's online.
Where does he work?
Well, I'm not gonna put his life on blast. Like he can tell you that if he wants to.
Well, I love the buffalo cauliflower at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Why are you getting a fire extinguisher? Are you all arsonists? Speaker Mike Johnson is defunding the ATF to protect them. I would love for the ATF to be above. See, the only logical position on the ATF isn't like, well, I'd like to fire the bad guys and keep the ones that are trying to protect. The only position is abolishment. That's it. Like you don't need it. They're very good at shooting kids and barbecuing women alive. Like that's what they're pretty much good at. Salty army in the house. Keith, this statically getting killed by your own is disproven by FBI numbers. Yeah, I'm sure it does, Keith. It's just more the irony of like, no fucking doubt. Like obviously, like it's like saying, if I have a phone, I'm statistically more likely to make a phone call. Yeah, because the opportunity exists. That is inherently true. Like if I wear a shirt, I'm statistically more likely to be warmer. Like yes, that's what the shirt does. Like it keeps me warmer. Whatever. What did you want to cover before we end?
I think we should wrap it up there. It's been a really good hour and 20 minutes. Schedule. I don't know if we're going to do this Mondays or Thursdays every.
We need to pick like one day. And I can't do Wednesdays, but
let's do it Thursdays then.
Thursdays, and it has to be weekly, all the time. It can be more lighthearted. We don't have to like have a crazy agenda every time. But Silver Wings. I can't leave that out because that's bad. It just didn't kill as many people after, so I tend to forget Fast and Furious, which only killed like a border patrol agent. But not only are they good at smuggling and running American firearms to the Sinaloa drug cartel, but they're also great at finding people in remote Idaho cabins and incinerating women and children alive in the prairies of Waco.
This is a perfect example of how the media twists.
Alexander doesn't like talking about that stuff.
No, because it goes into what you're saying. How come nobody's talking about how the United States government armed Hamas? Like nobody discusses that. We left behind
Wait, don't stop there. They've armed every single faction. They armed Afghanistan for decades against the Soviet Union. Now we've left yet another arsenal of tanks and weapons there. You've
weapons of war.
You've done coups against ayatollahs. You've Moabbed Syria. Like you've literally contributed weapons and destruction to multiple countries for decades and decades and decades.
Guys and gals, please share this content. Like I said, the first 2 Life members that sign up tonight or in the next couple days or so.
This guy wants a free book. It's
sign.
not free, but you can donate.
You can donate.
The link is right here on the bottom of the screen. You can see it on the ticker, NJ2AS.org. There's a donate, become a member button. Really quick, Lil Pope says, you see the video of a Tom's River cop tell the guy you can't carry in your car?
No.
Lil Pope, send me that video.
Yeah.
Put it on the comments if you can, or the email's down, right?
No, the email. We get to contact us on NJ2AS.org.
Yeah, drop it in the comments. I want to see that. I did not hear about that. I lived in Toms River briefly, and I know.
I remember, yeah.
I know I've ran in political campaigns with people from Toms River, and I know some people who
what is
were
he
working
claiming?
there.
Is there a video of it?
That a Toms River cop told someone on video, probably during a traffic stop, I'm assuming, that they can't carry in their car.
So this is another big problem. There's so much misinformation. When I talk to my local police department and officers, they just think, hey, yeah, just disclose that you have it, and that's it. Like they don't even know these rules and laws and everything.
I love Slappy. His Reader's Digest of my diatribes today was wine moms, drug cartels, and punchy Walmart greeters can go eat dirt as far as I'm concerned. I love you, Slappy. I miss you. I'm so glad you found us tonight. Card-carrying member, first time here. Great job. Look at that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alberto. Yo, hope to meet you, man.
And this is a whole. When you become an NJ2AS member, you will get a card in the mail. You'll get your membership card. You get a bumper sticker or sticker, whatever you want, and a nice letter from me. And one of the things we're going to start doing is we're teaming up with a lot of our sponsors. So if you exhibit your card to give it to them, you'll get a discount at their store or the service, whatever they provide. And that's something, if you know anybody that wants to become a sponsor, like a corporate sponsor, please have them contact us through the website.
Bill Lewis, just know you now have a file on you in the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office along with me. Rev Biker says to focus that cam. So we had to actually turn the autofocus off because it was overlaying, got grid lines on the screen. Like it was like kind of putting a big
Should I flip
square.
it on?
Yeah, you can flip it on if you want, but that's why the focus is turned off. We figured because it was static.
I thought it was auto.
He could focus one time and leave it alone, but appreciate you letting us know. It looks like it's being videotaped on a potato. Oh, wow. See, it's funny. On our screen, we have like a preview, so now it's focusing on my head. But see, it shows these lines. That's why we didn't want to put that on there. He says it looks terrible.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait,
fair
is
enough.
it better? Is it better clarity now?
Yeah, let us know if it looks better now that it's putting this little like drone target on my head. Looks like I'm about to have a cruise missile shot.
Looks like
at
you're.
me.
It looks like
Beep, 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 beep,
you're like a.
Box Eagle 20, box 2.
We got
I
We
renewed
got
in
that.
March and never got my card. Come on, can you take care of Plain Nut for me? Can you send him a card? Send him a card and a nice gift.
Send us a message. Yeah, absolutely. We usually get them out within like 4 or 5 days. Every weekend, they're being processed by our membership
We
director.
have a killer here. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Get over here. Get over here, baby. Look at this wolf. Oh, that's a big boy. Look at you. Hell yeah. Look at that big guy.
I love you. That's the NJ2AS mascot.
Because it looks like the NSA is watching you. Trust me, they are, man. Everyone in New I've got files on me all over New Jersey. I'm used to it by now. All right, guys.
All right, let's wrap it up. NJ2AS, please become a member. Life members, next two, will become proud owner of Crime Proof by my friend Anthony Calandro. It's signed by him in the book. It's actually it's a very good book, very very well done by Anthony, and we'll be doing more of that. Stay tuned. Sign up to our email list as well. We'll be putting out weekly content. It's going to be a lot of very outrageous stuff that we've documented on videos, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But this is how we're going to change the culture, and we are really proud to have you guys and gals as supporters.
And we're going to make this a weekly thing, consistent thing.
Absolutely.
Open dialogues, get more numbers, more people engaging, drip the content out that Alex has been doing for the last couple of years.
To prevent this shadow banning BS that goes on, please share our content with us, because for every person that helps share it, you're getting that message out. You believe it or not, there's been so many people that reached out to us saying, hey, we used to be anti-gun, and my friend sent me this from your video. I couldn't believe that officer was doing that, discriminating against women, discriminating against handicap. And that's where the camera is the most powerful tool you can have, because it really shows the truth of what's going on in the movement and what's happening in society today.
So my friend, let me take her name off the screen. She just sent me, she's watching us in her living room in Long Island. We're very good friends from the political movement that we were hanging out with recently. And it looks pretty damn bad. Look how blurry it is.
Oh, wow.
And Chris, please put on some pants next time before you text me a picture of you in your living room. Thank you.
All right.
But yeah, we'll figure out sorry about the quality. Let us know in the future early that stuff's not
Just
looking
have them
good.
correct. Is the quality better?
I know
with
what it
the
is. It's your
autofocus?
Wi-Fi. It's because you have to hardwire into this.
The Wi-Fi is.
Yes, but it's intermittent. So it's like really strong, and then it'll go down and go up and stay up and then go down and go up. You need it hardwired so it's consistent. Real quick, I renewed my membership and I never got my card. Here, take care of him as well. shoot a message, shoot a new message out and say, hey, I
If you
listened to
did
you on
not
the
receive,
stream.
if you did not receive your card, please send us a message. The contact us page of the NJ2AS.org website. Go over there. We send it to our membership director, and we'll get you a new card and membership card and sticker.
Or come to Englishtown on Tuesday and see us face to face. See Alexander, smack him on the back of the head, and he'll get you.
How can you find out more about your campaign?
You're C4, C4, or C3.
Yeah, C4.
Okay. There's nothing really to campaign.
It's Daniel Francisco. Check him out on social
primary's
media.
over. I have my nonprofit, but I don't want to plug that. Just come and meet us. It's not political. It's not because of the election. It's just a celebrating. We'll celebrate NJ2AS. We'll celebrate hopefully a good result that night, and we'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about in the current in the liberty movement climate. And it'll be great. We'll have a couple of drinks, have some pizza, wings. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Great to see you.
Thanks.